Okay, so not only am I nervous, but I have a client in the room too. All right, so I've got to be good. Here's the other thing. This stage, so I'm usually out there. I have watched Al Gore stand on this stage. I have watched Ralph Nader, of course, Steve Ballmer. So this is kind of like the Grand Ole Opry of Redmond. And now I get to stand up here and talk to you all. So pretty special day. Thank you all for coming to this workshop. We are talking about strategic planning with OKRs. And it's okay if you know nothing about OKRs. I'm going to hopefully, over the next 47 and a half minutes, teach you about some of the basics of OKRs, but then also how you can apply it within your own organization. As Gail said, my name is Bria Starmer. I founded a company called Lions and Tigers, a bit of a courage brand, and we're a future of work consultancy. We help organizations tap talent, a lot of working moms like me that want to work fractionally. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but the question I want to start off with, just a little question, just a softball. What do you want to achieve in 2020? This is the conference of dreams. We are at Women in Cloud. This thing is bomb. We are talking about inclusion and access and how can we participate in the global economy and bring more access, especially to women, and in my passion area, especially to working moms. But this is the time where we get to really think about all of the ways that we can impact globally. But what I want to spend the next 46 and a half minutes talking with you about is how can you take this and really think hyper locally. Whether that's, within your small business that you're starting, within the job that you have, within your family structure, whatever that looks like for you, we want to really take all of this energy and apply it through a proven methodology called OKRs. Okay, so just so that I can figure out who I've got in the room, because as we said, this is a give and a take. I want to make sure that this isn't just me talking at you. You are going to talk to each other because we're going to be working together. But let me do a quick poll. I want to see who we have in here. Here are your options. I'm going to ask for some hand raising. So if you identify most as an independent consultant or a freelancer, can I have your hand up? Okay, a couple of those. Great. How about you're a little bit further along, you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner like me? Okay, a few of those. How about an employee within a broader organization? A lot of you. Okay, great. And how about if you're a manager of people? Oh, a lot of you. Great. Okay, perfect. That helps me kind of calibrate where we're going to go. Okay, so let's just set a foundation. OKRs. OKRs is an acronym for objectives and key results. Very simply, objectives are what you want to accomplish, and key results are your measures of success. And you've probably all used a bunch of different business planning techniques. You might have done BHAGs. I remember learning about BHAGs in college, big, hairy, audacious goals. Objectives and key results is a proven methodology that helps organizations really get clear on what they're trying to achieve. And so what we intend to do in this workshop is that I want you to walk out of here understanding the basics of OKRs. I want you to have a little bit of time to practice building a few. I want you to talk to each other and think about how each other are going to use a methodology like this in your own organization. And then I have an accountability offer at the end, because this is a giving and a sharing community, so I will give an offer to you at the end. So let me tell you about where I learned about OKRs. So I haven't always been an entrepreneur and owning my own business. I previously worked at Microsoft, and then I went and I did a startup experience. Anyone ever heard of Porch? Anyone from the Seattle area? They're kind of a Angie's List competitor, highly funded, $100 million of funding from Lowe's. They help you find plumbers. And so I joined Porch to start this new division with a few of my colleagues, and it's just the fanciest experience I've ever had at a startup. I had a Costco pop-up table and really only the best accommodations. I will say they had really awesome cereal. That was the employee perk that everyone loved the most. And so at Porch, I was introduced to OKRs. And what we lacked in office accommodations, we made up for in ruthless investigation into our product market fit. And so I met OKRs working at Porch, and we used them as a way for us to measure whether our product was successful or not, whether we were achieving sales, whether our scores looked good. And it was my first time really being introduced to this methodology, and I really liked it. I'm a logical planner. I like spreadsheets, and so it really appealed to the way that I work. While I was at Porch, I also was fortunate enough to get knocked up with my first kid. I say knocked up, it was planned, I was very excited. And so as I had my time at Porch, my belly kept growing. And what our OKRs showed us while we were there was that our product wasn't doing well. And the division that we were trying to get off the ground didn't have a path to profitability. And so at 7 months pregnant, I was laid off from Porch. And I agreed with the business decision because it didn't look good. But personally, it was not the best timing, as you might imagine. So this was me. This is a classy bathroom selfie. Sent this to my husband. And this was me job interviewing with a large baby in my belly. And I was like waddling to these interviews. And this is me trying to hide it. I had a scarf and a jacket, but I had a pretty big belly. And I was told that their interviewing process took 4 months. That's unfortunate timing. And so I was not eligible to be hired. And so I know now how privileged I was to get to start a consulting career in the 3rd trimester of my pregnancy. Most people don't have the network that I had to be able to make a few phone calls and start consulting. But those were my only options. And so luckily the baby came and it all went well. His name is Cedar, he is now 4. And I went on to have another. I liked him, in fact, enough that I had a second one. This is Scout, he just had his first birthday. And in the first month of my pregnancy with Scout, I decided that I needed to share what I was doing with others because I was loving this consulting so much and I was picking up all of these part-time projects and there was more work than I could do. And so I decided to found a company called Lions and Tigers. As we've mentioned, this is a future of work consultancy, and I believe that flexibility is a strategic advantage for brands and for consultants. And so we bridge that gap in the middle. And the reason that OKRs have become such a big part of our practice is that as a mom, as someone who is time-starved, I have to ruthlessly prioritize my time. And you all can relate as entrepreneurs, as people managers. The thing that we all have is 24 hours in a day. And so being really mindful of how we spend our time, how we measure our success is incredibly important. And so I love this quote that says, you always have time for the things you put first. But if we don't know if we're successful, if we're measuring that in the appropriate way, then we'll put the wrong things first. Okay, so have I piqued your interest yet about the value of OKRs? Okay, so now let me set your expectations because OKRs don't solve if you have a bad product. Okay, we've learned that lesson. But OKRs can certainly help you see where you might want to improve, where you want to iterate, how you want to have some agility to improve. But I want you to just understand that this is a practice. I call it the practice of OKRs. You're never done with OKRs. It's something that you have to work on and work on and work on, especially in bigger teams, especially in enterprises, especially as a people manager. You need to sell these things in. And so I consider it like yoga. Anyone do yoga? Okay, is anyone good at yoga? No. Yoga is a practice. It takes a lifetime to get good at it. I think OKRs are a similar practice. I call it yoga. Okay, so let's do another quick poll, if we could. I want to know how many here, and some of you are here with your colleagues, so no judgment here, but how many of you feel confident in the direction that your organization is heading? You know the mission, you feel really strongly about where it's going. Okay, great. Maybe a quarter. How many of you would say that people know what you're trying to achieve? If you were to ask your colleague, they would say, oh, I know exactly what she's going after. Okay. And what about the idea that you can easily demonstrate the progress? If someone says, yep, I know her attainment looks like this. Okay, so if all of you had raised your hands, I would say, awesome, you don't need OKRs. But since there is some opportunity in the room, then I would say OKRs are a really effective way to accomplish these 3 things. So let me tell you where OKRs came from quickly, because you don't need to believe me. I didn't make them up. I'm just an amplifier of the idea. So Andy Grove was the CEO of Intel. He started using them in the 70s, and he shared it with the world in the 80s as he wrote the book, High Output Management. And the difference with OKRs, different than BHAGs or other sort of strategic planning work, is that it uses the idea of a key result. And a key result is an undeniable metric of success. And so at the end of the day, you should be able to look at your progress and answer the question, did I do that or did I not do that? Very objectively. And this is why I love them, because it allows me as this crazy logical person to be able to look and say, I have been successful or I have not been successful. It removes the emotion from my progress, and it allows you to take a really objective view of your product. Because man, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. If people don't like my brand or my product, I take it very personally. But when you put it into a framework like this, it really allows you to say, are we serving the right kind of needs? Is this the right kind of product? It just gives you that kind of vocabulary to use with your team. And then, so I am a believer in OKRs because I do think they're a very powerful tool. And in fact, I have seen them change cultures. I have seen them be transformative. I mean, certainly they changed my career. Fair enough. But they also, they offer simplicity. They really help you come to this place of prioritization. They provide a North Star. They help amplify that mission. They ensure that daily work moves the needle, and especially cross-team. We just did a workshop with some of our clients at Microsoft, and it was about a 70-person organization that installed OKRs. And these folks are working in silos, right? Everyone is working towards their daily objectives. They have territories, they have things that they need to achieve and commitments as an employee, but it gave them a chance to sit up and say, how can I help you? And so for the first time, they looked at the whites of each other's eyes and said, let's work together on something in a shared framework. And so it does create this culture of transparency and accountability. You can see what your colleagues are achieving. At Google, my girlfriend works there, and we've talked a lot about how they have used OKRs. They actually have dashboards built so that everyone can look at attainment. You can see what everyone is working on. So there's no mystery, there's no secrets. It's not about hallway conversations, it's about numbers. And then they support business agility. Certainly you can rev on products a lot faster, and it scales up and down. Okay, I've sold you. You're convinced. If not, these are the brands that use OKRs today. Certainly we've talked about Intel and Google. Microsoft is certainly applying them, but it's gone across Silicon Valley, certainly, and now we're seeing it applied in many other businesses and many other industries. So it's catching some steam. I'm going to skip that one quickly. So the thing that I wanted to share with you too, if you want to learn more about OKRs, since we don't have all of the conference to spend together, I recommend the book Measure What Matters. And if you're like me, I just get it on Audible, I'll listen to it on my drive-in and home. However you get it, it's a really wonderful resource. And in fact, if you want at the end, you can sign up and I'll send you a link to it. So you don't even need to remember the name of the book. But John Doerr talks about all of the applications and uses and goes really deep into how Google has used it and some really good examples. Okay. Now, let's start working on the workshop part. Let's get on to the place where you're going to start practicing building these things, because I want you to walk out of here with some confidence. Okay, so I want to make sure you know how to build an OKR. So you should have a worksheet in front of you. Do you have a worksheet? Everyone have one? Okay. So on that worksheet, there's some definitions here, so you can take this with you, take it back to your team and practice. But on it, you will see the definition of an objective. And so an objective is a memorable qualitative description of what you want to achieve. These can be big or they can be little. They can really be edited to the kind of inspiration you want to draw for yourself or your team. And so they should be short, they should be inspirational, and they motivate and challenge the team. I'm going to give you one quick example, and this is I would call this a small objective. I wanted to pick something that was like basically something you could achieve for the next quarter. So let's say you're a marketing manager, and your objective is to increase our marketing qualified leads. I added some extra credit here, and I put in here by 20%. It's not required to have a number in your objective. These can be a little fluffy, a little, they just make you feel good. They make you want to work harder. And so, you can make these even a little bit more aspirational if you want. But a very practical one would be, I want to increase our marketing qualified leads. And then the key results come along and they just support that objective. They make it feel good. They give us something to grasp onto. And so these key results are the set of metrics and measures that allow you to define your success. And again, they help you answer the question, did we achieve this? objectively. And here's the thing, they have to have a number. Marissa Mayer from Yahoo always says, if it doesn't have a number, it's not a key result. So on your worksheets, there's actually a little bubble to the right on the back when we get to working on it that will allow you to put a literal check mark in there to ensure that you have a number in your key result, because I want that to be that pointed as a objective. And so think about all of the numbers that we can measure in a business: time, advancement, growth, unit economics, sales, time to market. I mean, there's many things you can pull and use as quantitative measures of success. So that's what we want to pull and put into the key results. So in this example, we might say we want to generate 100 web lead form fills per month. We want to publish research white papers to share with 3 analysts. We want to write 3 blog posts per month with an average of 500 views. So these are, we know, when we look at that, did we write 3 blog posts? Did they get 500 views? Yes or no? That's as descriptive as we need to be. And so then now that we've built this, here's what the complete OKR looks like. You've got an objective and these key results. Do not go more than 5 key results because your head will explode. Just my advice. And you really want to keep your number of objectives to something like 3 or 4 in total. So this, you need to really, as I mentioned, prioritize your time, because there's only so much you can do. And what you can see here is I've actually highlighted in green all of the numbers that are included here. That one on the top is an extra credit. Don't feel pressure to do it. And then I've put some color coding to the side, because a lot of our clients actually create sort of dashboards out of this, as you've heard that Google does. And so you can literally say we're green, yellow, or red towards our attainment of our objectives and our key results. So, and this is something that we measure, we look at frequently. I'll talk about frequency in a little bit. And so, let me just move to the next slide for you. Oops, I went too fast. Okay, so now that you have seen sort of the structure of an objective and key result, I want to give you a chance to practice. And in my experience, it's best to practice in something in your personal life. Just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and here are your instructions. On the back of your worksheet, there is a box for personal. You're going to get a preview because we'll do some professional ones in a minute. But I want you to think about a goal that you have in your personal life. For me, one of my hobbies I'd like to pursue is fly fishing. It's not something I've ever done before. It seems lovely. You get to go out and no one emails you. You get to fly fish. So this is my objective, is to learn fly fishing. And then I want you to think about what are some of the key results that you can put under that. Whatever that is for you in your personal life, identify 2 or 3 things that you could do to measure whether you're on track for that objective or not. I want to give you 5 minutes, and then I want you to sit and I want you to talk to the person next to you about what you built. And then I'll run around and answer questions. And some of my team is here in the back. We'll also come around and make sure that we can answer questions, because some of the tricky things that you'll find is that it's difficult to figure out what's a key result versus what's an objective. Just remember that we're trying to find the things that measure whether we're on track and that there's a number involved. That's usually my shortcut. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go ahead and build out your professional OKR, 1 OKR. We'll give you some time. Okay, I heard some really good questions. I heard it's hard to figure out what are key results and what do you put down there. I heard a question about how long do we want the objective to span. So that's really up to you. Some people like to build quarterly objectives. So like, the MQL's example is probably a quarterly objective. But, if I want to be, a award-winning fly fisherwoman, that's going to take me some time. So you can have that span a lot longer. So let me do another quick poll. I want to see how that felt. It depends on kind of personality type how that felt to you. So I want to know how many of you said, that was easy, I got it, give me more. Okay, great, I love that. Okay, how about some people that say that felt a little unfamiliar to me, that whole exercise? Okay, and how about that was unexpectedly hard? Okay, fair enough. And do you see why I say this is a practice and that it takes time? Because over time, what's really cool? I love when we can move key results and objectives back and forth. So something that might be an objective can turn into a key result later once you've accomplished something, and then maybe that graduates. That's what's so beautiful about this system. So let's get a little bit more advanced, because I think you guys are getting it. So let's go to the next level. I'm going to give you a little bit more information, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more time to work on a professional application of OKRs. Okay, so We want to talk about cascading for a minute. Since so many of you are managers or employees within bigger organizations, I want to talk about cascading because this is what we help our clients work on often, is to figure out how do you build something like this within the dependency of other people. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could just build our own OKRs and didn't matter what everyone else did? But the beauty of this is that it lets you kind of break down those silos. And so this is a framework I like to think of, is that there is this mission and vision. This does not replace your mission and vision. There still is that piece needed from the leadership team, from the executive team to define where it is that you're headed, where are you going. The objectives fall just underneath that though. They are the 3 or 4 or 5 things that you're gonna do to really set and make a path forward to achieve that mission. And then underneath those objectives is where those key results fall. You saw that nested. And I wanna make a note too that this doesn't necessarily this isn't your project plan. Those are also different. That falls down below key results. So if our key result was to write 3 blog posts, an action would be that I need to write 1 blog post by next Tuesday. So your tasks, those are the things that you need to actually build out into your project plan. And then that's what you come back to and revisit over and over and over again. Am I doing the right next steps to make sure that I'm going to achieve my key results? And the key results are telling me whether we're successful towards our objective. That's how this cascades together. In an organization, a broader organization with multiple layers and teams, you see this play out in that general manager, for instance, may have a vision for his team, his company, or her organization. And below that, they would lay out some major strategies and priorities for the teams that are coming together. And then the team managers absorb and take on objectives that support the broader mission. And then their team would take on objectives and key results that support their manager's objectives. So it gets quite complicated. Call me for custom consulting when you're ready for that. Okay, so then the next question is, how frequently do we want to have this exercise, have this practice? And so in your handout, you will also see there's a little cheat sheet right here in the middle. And I know that the font is small, but here it is up on the big screen, which is how often do we want to evaluate each tier of planning? As an entrepreneur, I look at my mission and vision about annually. I look and say, does this feel right? Usually I do that around January 1st and say, is this still the mission that we're on? Does this still feel right? We look at our objectives on a quarterly basis at Lions and Tigers. We think about what is it that we're off to achieve in the next quarter, because it's just hard to plan longer than that. The business changes that dynamically. And then monthly, we look at our key results. That's what we do as part of our leadership team. We look at where are we at, how are we achieving towards our objectives. And the great news is, if something is not working, you ditch it. You ditch it and you move on and you put in a new objective. That's the beauty of the system. There's a lot of forgiveness. And then action plans show up weekly. Usually in our one-on-ones, when I'm talking to my directs, I say, how are you doing on your action plans as aligned to the objectives that we've set out together and agreed to. So that's how we usually use this framework. You can adjust this. You can make them longer. You can make them shorter. Some team works in agile sprints. However that looks for your organization, this is very adaptable, which is great. Okay, so last thing I want to talk with you about. And this is really OKR's 200 level. So in addition to trying to figure out the right altitude of what you want to define, when you get really good at this, and after you've practiced for a while, we're going to look at the strength of your complete OKR portfolio. So going into a year, you might have your 3 or 4 objectives, all of your key results that fall underneath that, and then I like to build it into a project plan myself. That's how I like to use it. But you don't want to look at them in a box. You want to look at them compared to one another. And so I want to give you this example that helps you look at weak versus strong key results, because again, those are kind of the beauty of the system working differently than other planning systems. So in this model, and this is also in the book, the Measurement Matters book, this objective is to win the Indy 500. I mean, it's no fly fishing, but it's interesting nonetheless. So a weak key result would be that I know that I need to increase my lap speed and I need to reduce my pit stop time. Those are the 2 things that help me go faster when I'm a race car driver. Those are weak because there's no numbers, first of all, and they don't give you a whole lot of sense of whether we're on track or not. So if you look at the sort of average key results, I think where a lot of people start is in this category. So we've put a number into each of these, and it gives you some sense of context. I want to reduce my average pit stop time by 1 second. Okay, that helps me know where we're at. And you can say, okay, yes, it's been half a second or it's been 2 seconds, and so I know if I'm on track. A stronger set of key results for the objective of win the Indy 500 would mix quantitative and qualitative with numbers. I know that that's like next level. So if you think of it this way, you can't simply move fast because your product might be poor quality. You can't simply focus on quality and not speed, right? It's like that old saying of cheap, better, quicker, right? Or can I have two, not the three? So we've got to have a lineup of key results that help us have a complement of things that ensure that our product is good and our services is quick. So in this case, the two kind of more quantity-focused key results are we want to increase average lap speed by 2%. We want to reduce average pit stop time by 1 second. But then the quality attributes that we also bring in is that we want to reduce pit stop errors by 50%. And we want to practice pit stops 1 hour a day. So that helps with our quality to know not just speed, but how good are we at our profession. So I wanted to share this with you, and I know that it's a little bit complicated, but I just wanted to give you this if you feel like you are overachievers at OKRs, to give you a sense of where you should be headed down the road. This is really where we want to get people after having done this 3 or 4 quarters down the road. We get to a much more complicated set of key results. Okay, we have a few minutes left, and so with our remaining time, I want to give you a little bit more time to practice in your professional life, because we've done personal, and now we're going to try to start applying it towards work. You all have different jobs in the room. Some of you are entrepreneurs, some of you are managers. Whatever is singing to your heart today, please focus that in our next exercise. And so I'm going to give you, again, about 5 minutes, and on the back of your worksheets, I've given you a space for 2 objectives and key results. So you can start figuring out maybe what your 2 biggest priorities are. What are the 2 things that are keeping you up at night that you want to start documenting? So I'll give you a little bit of time to work on a couple of professional ones. And again, we'll walk around and make sure that we can answer questions for you, and we'll come back together in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to bring you back here. I know you could talk about this all day, and hopefully you do. But I want to make sure that I am not someone that is on a list of people who ran long. So let's move into next steps and the accountability offer that I said that I was going to give you. So here's what I would love to offer you as homework. I was never a teacher, but I guess I always wanted to be one. So let me give you homework today because, well, I've got a microphone on. So first is I'd love to send you off feeling like you can start to build objectives and key results for your business, for your practice, whatever that looks like for you. I'd love for you to take a stab at doing this, really fleshing this out, spending some time, give yourself an hour, and just really think about this, and then share it with a few of your peers. See how they react to that. See what questions they ask, see how confident you feel in explaining what you're working on, and then start to put into place a measurement practice and a rhythm of business associated with it. I'm happy to share some best practices around that if you have questions of how and when and how to embed this in your culture. And then work to improve as you go. I mean, that's how this works. And so I've talked a lot about logic. This really appeals to me. Figuring out this kind of taxonomy really helps me explain what I do. But I want to have one plug, one encouragement, because I find that OKRs work really well when you use both your head and your heart. And so I want to do a quick plug for my colleague, Dr. Renee, who's leading a session later. She's sitting right here. She's also a really wonderful OKR facilitator. And she's talking about increasing your emotional intelligence at work. We could all use some of that. At least I always feel like I could use some of that, and I learned so much from her. So I think of this as a really important part of landing OKRs and figuring out how everyone is motivated within your organization. So highly encourage you to go to that at 3:30 in the Baker and Hood room. My colleague, Dr. Renee. So I will leave you with this big question, and then I will give you my offer. So I want to, again, reflect on what is it that you want to achieve in 2020? How will you document that? How will you make sure and measure that you're on your track towards success? Who will you bring alongside with you? What kind of allies? Who will you bring? What kind of inclusion and access will these unlock for someone else? That's certainly what keeps me up at night in the best way. And so with that, my offer, let me move quickly into my accountability offer. If you want to sign up on lions-tigers.com/women-in-cloud, you can sign up for being interested in OKRs, and we'll send you one email that has an OKR template. I have an Excel file that we've built, which is a really great way to start this practice. I will give you the link to that Measure What Matters book, and there's a really wonderful newsletter that they also build called the Audacious Newsletter that you're welcome to sign up for if you wish. And then I have made myself available for 15-minute OKR coaching. So you can sign up for a link, and I'm happy to jump on the phone with you and just do some real quick iteration and feedback on what you're building after you've taken a rev at this. So feel free to find some time with me. I'd be very happy to help you build a strategic business going into 2020. So with that, thank you so much. Have an awesome day, and let's do this thing.